Last year, Illumination Entertainment unveiled its feature-length animated adaptation of Dr. Seuss's classic book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The response was on the mixed side, as many saw it as just another simple picture book that had been unnecessarily stretched and padded out. However, I came away from The Grinch with a different opinion. I really liked a lot of the creative decisions that were made with the material, and found it to be a very respectful take on Seuss's story. I've watched the film a few times over the past year, and continue to find new things to appreciate in it. The biggest thing that seems to divide people with this version of The Grinch is, well, the Grinch. As Dr. Seuss envisioned him, he was a grumpy loner who was irritated at the Who's and their love for Christmas, and found the best way to deal with that was to steal all their holiday trinkets and possessions. The Grinch still incorporates these elements, but with a twist. We've seen the Grinch in a book, an animated television special, a live-action movie, and in a stage musical. So I see nothing wrong with someone trying a slightly different variation on the character. And with this incarnation, the filmmakers seemed interested in exploring the effect loneliness can have on a person. We get a few peeks into the Grinch's childhood, but we also see in his body language and the way he reacts to the Who's how introverted he is. One of the most notable scenes in The Grinch is when he finds himself stuck in a crowd of talkative Who's. Part of being introverted is not liking being in big crowds. You just want to get out of there and find a lonely spot to be in, away from all the people and noise. The Who's are all depicted as friendly and excited about the Christmas holidays. They certainly don't mean any malice, but sometimes you just want to take a quick trip to the supermarket and buy some Who hash. We also see the Grinch's introverted nature when interacting with a Who named Bricklebomb. His problem with Bricklebomb isn't so much his friendliness, but rather how overly energetic he is, and how uncomfortable he feels when interacting with him. Energetic people can be some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet, but if you're quiet and reserved, they can be a bit too much to take in. Sometimes you just want to be alone with your thoughts, or your dog in the Grinch's case. The Grinch's lack of involvement in Christmas also comes from his nervousness when meeting new people. As shown in the childhood flashbacks, he has a fear of rejection and being unsure of what the first impression will be. Will they even like me? What if I do something wrong? This is a slight departure from the Dr. Seuss original, but I think it does a nice job of fleshing him out. The Grinch's motivation to steal Christmas is more psychological in this version, as he sees it as a way of finally getting rid of what traumatizes him the most. That ties in nicely with the final message of the movie, when he realizes why Christmas has such an effect on him. Another criticism thrown towards the movie is Benedict Cumberbatch's decision to give the Grinch a somewhat nasally American accent, as opposed to his natural, deep-voiced British pipes. I will admit, when I first heard the voice in the trailers, I thought he sounded a lot more like Bill Hader. But listening to the Grinch within the context of the film, I grew to really like it. Yes, it's different than the Boris Karloff and Jim Carrey interpretations, but remember that How the Grinch Stole Christmas was originally a book before it was adapted to the screen, and different readers probably had their own ideas of what the Grinch sounded like. I also really like how the Grinch spends a lot of time planning his heist, and we see every step he takes before pulling it off. These sequences show off how smart and inventive he is, and how careful he was with making sure the whole thing went off without a hitch. When we do get to the sequence of the Grinch stealing Christmas, it's wonderfully done. The scene transitions and the different gadgets we see him using are a lot of fun. This portion definitely serves as one of the highlights. Another thing I want to bring up is Cindy Lou Who. She's given her own subplot, where she wants to send an important message to Santa Claus. These scenes do a nice job of showing Christmas through a child's point of view, and the innocence with which they view the holiday. The Grinch and Cindy's storylines eventually tie together in the third act, when the Grinch finds himself talking to Cindy. Her selflessness is well portrayed, and the movie does a beautiful job of showing how this interaction affects the Grinch. Humor-wise, we get a fair amount of slapstick comedy, but it all works. The animators at Illumination have really honed their skills in that arena ever since making the first Despicable Me movie. The Grinch's occasional sarcasm and biting comments that come through fit the character really well. And something that really impressed me is the film's restraint regarding the lack of pop culture references. I actually don't hate pop culture references as much as others do, but it's refreshing to see an animated family film find other forms of humor to utilize. Regarding the visuals, Illumination went above and beyond to create the most beautiful film to date. The depiction of Whoville is a stunner, and I love the way the movie utilizes color in the lighting. The movie as a whole looks very Christmassy. I was particularly struck by the shot composition in The Grinch. There's some amazing shots here, especially when we see the Grinch sneaking around in the snow, his mountain, and in the homes of Whoville. A large credit for this goes to the directors, both of whom have very different filmmaking backgrounds. Yarrow Cheney was an animator who worked on such films as Cast Stone Dance and The Iron Giant. One of his most notable achievements was designing the excellent opening for the Dilbert animated series, for which he won an Emmy. He then became a production designer, eventually finding his way to Illumination, where he then co-directed The Secret Life of Pets and The Grinch. The other director is Scott Mosier, who was Kevin Smith's producing partner for the longest time. Yes, the Clerks guy. He eventually set off on his own, eventually writing episodes of the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon and the animated movie Freebirds. He then began working at Illumination, initially directing a short for the Sing Blu-ray and then getting the Grinch gig. When Mosier was announced as one of the directors of The Grinch, I was really pleased to see that he was finally given the chance to direct a feature film. Cheney and Mosier seemed to really put their talents together to create a film that was both visually impressive but also contained a lot of heart. This is a very well-directed film, and it's why these two are my top picks to direct the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie Illumination is producing. A number of reviews I read seemed to just dismiss The Grinch as mere kiddie fare, and treated it as yet another extended Seuss adaptation. There wasn't that much of an attempt to dig into what Cheney, Mosier, and the rest of the Illumination team sought to explore with this film, especially in relation to the Grinch's overall arc. I find this is a problem in general when most people talk about any animated film not made by one of the legacy studios, i.e. Disney, Pixar, and Ghibli. The movies by those studios are given proper analysis that explore the thematic ideas presented by the filmmakers. I think Blue Sky, Illumination, DreamWorks, Sony Animation, and the other major animation studios have proven themselves just as capable of making films that touch on deeper themes and feature interesting ideas. Unfortunately, most reviewers just choose to look at their movies on a surface level, and that plays a role in many of their productions becoming underappreciated. Those animated films are smarter and more meaningful than they're given credit for. The Grinch included, and this is a movie that I predict will eventually earn its place in the annual holiday rotation. The idea of doing yet another adaptation of How the Grinch Stole Christmas seemed absurd, but I thought the filmmakers found a neat angle to approach the material that still respected Dr. Seuss's original text. The emotional undercurrent that runs through the film gave it an extra bit of heart. Of the feature-length Seuss adaptations, this is my favorite. And out of all the movies Illumination have made thus far, this is also my favorite. If you skipped out on this movie because of the mixed reception, I guess now is as good a time as any to maybe give it a chance. See you next time.